Are you concerned that the lack of work experience opportunities during the pandemic will impact on your CV? In this episode of Future You, a leading graduate employer explains why you shouldn't be worried and how to impress in your job applications. Hello and welcome to Future You, the podcast from Graduate Careers Experts Prospects. We're here to help you achieve your career goals. My name's Dan Mason, and this episode features my conversation with Claire Bainan from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, a major employer of graduates in the UK. In this interview, which we recorded last month in June, we really focus on the application process, and Claire provides some great advice on how to really catch the attention of recruiters when you're applying for jobs, and some tips on things to avoid as well. She also offers some reassurance and guidance for those of you who have missed out on work experiences over the last year and a half due to the impact of the pandemic, and why you shouldn't be too worried about those gaps in your CV, because of course employers know they will be there, they understand the situation, and there are, as Claire explains, plenty of other ways that you can show off why you're the right person for the job. Claire then talks about the promote from within culture at Enterprise, so if you're looking for a graduate job with strong long-term career development prospects, this may be one for you as well.
My name's Claire Bainan and I'm the Talent Acquisition Manager for Enterprise Rent-A-Car UK and Ireland. So I lead on early careers and really the marketing team that are responsible for attracting the best and brightest talent to many opportunities. So that's just a little bit about me. And in terms of Enterprise Rent-A-Car is the world's largest mobility transport provider, part of the Enterprise Holdings Group. That owns brands such as National, Alamo, Car Club, Flexi Rent, just to name but a few. But just to give you a scale of our operation, we have over 80,000 employees operating in over 9,000 locations across the world. So quite, as you can see, a very big company with lots of opportunities. And our growth has really been down to our award-winning customer service delivered by the fantastic employees that we hire.
Fantastic. And so what are the opportunities that are available for new graduates at Enterprise?
Yeah, I would say the main opportunities would be on our management training programme. We have a really large intake actually. We hire probably around 800 to 1,000 graduates a year on our programme. We don't have a cut-off, we do promote all year round. And the role in essence is learning the business from the ground up before being able to run your own business at Enterprise, your own branch. We have a very strong promote from within culture, which really creates lots of opportunities within the business. And as you develop within the business, you can then really move forward either on that linear path of operations, or you can diversify your career in different parts of the business.
So I'd like to focus a bit now on applications, the application process, and especially at the moment when graduates have had a really tricky 12 to 18 months, lack of work experience available, that kind of thing. So talk a bit about that. So just to start off, what is your application process? What are the stages involved in that?
Absolutely. So firstly, please visit careers.enterprise.co.uk and there you will find our careers site. And on that site, you will see lots of content, blogs, videos, really listening to our employees who have worked for the business today. So I think firstly, that's a great resource. You'll see there is an online application that you would need to complete. And that's your opportunity to really kind of stand out from any other applicants. So it does go into a bit of detail there about your experience and your education. You will then probably be invited on a call with one of our recruiters who we call it a phone screen. So they'll typically maybe ask you questions like, why did you decide to apply for enterprise, and really confirm some of the basic requirements of the role. And that call probably just takes maybe 5 or 10 minutes. It's really short. And if they feel good about your application, they will then invite you to a recruiter interview, which will take typically around about 45 minutes. It is a competency-based behavioural questions are asked around our 6 core competencies. So typically the questions will be, tell me about a time when, and all the questions we ask will be around those 6 competencies. So just to share what those competencies are, customer service, as I've mentioned before, is really important to us. We assess on sales aptitude. We do recognise that grads aren't going to have lots of sales experience, but we look for potential. Other competencies, communication, flexibility, work ethic and leadership. So you will be asked during that recruiter interview, which will be on Teams, questions around those competencies. Now, if you're successful at that stage, we will then invite you to the final stage of our process, which will be a branch visit. So you get to go to one of our locations. And I just think this is a great part of our recruitment process, because this is not just us assessing you, but this is really you assessing us to see if this is an environment that you feel you could work in. You get to talk to employees in the business day on the programme. You get to kind of experience what a typical day might look like, and it's really an opportunity for you to ask questions. Once you've been in the branch and shadowing some of the team there, you then will have an interview with the hiring manager, which would be the area manager. So you will have then another competency-based interview, which again will probably last about an hour with the hiring manager. Now, if successful, we will then offer you the position from there. So there's no assessment centres, no psychometric testing. It's quite a very simple process that really works for us.
Sighs of relief from graduates everywhere, yeah. As you say, no assessment centres. But like lots of graduate jobs, it's quite an extensive process. Lots of different stages. Though the branch visit sounds really interesting at the end there. But through that process, what are the things that can make a good candidate really stand out to you? What are you looking for throughout that application process? What can graduates do to really impress?
That's a really great question, and I actually reflect on myself when I left university, and I can totally kind of see why graduates might do this. But for me, I did apply for lots of opportunities. I used the same CV, the same application. And I now realise that was my biggest mistake. And really, you're better to maybe go for less opportunities, but really take the time to prepare for that application. So preparation, I cannot emphasise how important it is for you to do your research. Really look at the organisation, look at like I said, our website, there's some great information, resources on there. LinkedIn, again, another great way to really kind of have a feel for the company and what's important to us. And then as you're completing that online application, really sort of tailor that application to the values of the company, what's important. I've mentioned customer service is really important to us at Enterprise. So really kind of make sure that you talk about any experience that you have, either dealing with a customer or internally. You may have maybe been part of a society and you can talk about how your members were your customers. So really looking at those transferable skills that you've got that you can really emphasize on during the application. As I said, I think it's really important. You can really tell when a candidate has done their research and really kind of mentions that during their application. They've took time, they've took effort to really get everything across that they want to. I would also say there's always that additional information box that we have that on our application. And again, I think the grads that maybe don't make the most of that box, that really don't really fill that much in, I think, again, understandably, maybe you feel it's not as important as maybe talking about your experience, but this part of the application really allows us to get a feel for you as a person. What are your interests? What do you like to do? again, just make the most of every part of the application, because again, if you leave that blank or maybe just put just a couple of sentences in, it really just doesn't really show us that you've really took the time to really think about how much you can share in that application. So preparation, really important, and I would say just making the most of the application that you make.
Absolutely, yeah. And so obviously in telling us what impresses you, you've sort of given us an idea of where other applications don't quite make the cut, because it's obviously not doing the things you've explained there. But is there anything else you could pinpoint as to things not to do, things to avoid in applications, whether at whichever stage of that process it is, maybe at the interview or whatever it might be?
Yeah, well, of course, sort of, I guess, the opposite to what I've just mentioned. Just make sure you don't do all of those things. But I would also say, just know the company that you've applied to. Sometimes we do see on applications text that may refer to a different company name. So maybe it's been a bit of a copy and paste application, and therefore it's those kind of really take the time and the care, really checking what you've written, because sometimes that one mistake could really be really detrimental to your application, even though the rest might be great. Just really sort of take that time, and I think during the interview process, the one of the first questions we would ask is, tell me why you've applied for enterprise, or how much do you know about enterprise? And I think, again, that really tells you how much research that candidate's done. So I think, if the candidate's asking us questions like, tell me a little bit about what you do, or, I think then clearly they haven't done that research. And I think, again, those questions will ask around those 6 competencies. I really recommend that the competences ahead of time. I've named them today, and you really think of the examples that you have in your previous experience that can really tell a story about how you've experienced being in a leadership role, or how you've experienced maybe demonstrating your sales and persuasion skills. If you're asked a question and you really struggle for an answer, just say, look, can I come back to it, rather than just not answering the question. Because sometimes, as we all know, you go blank in an interview, and sometimes it's really hard, and please leave the door open in that interview to make sure that you do go back to it, and you really let the recruiter be able to go back to that question, that can then hopefully you come up with an answer, and that's absolutely fine to do that.
Yeah, and just to finish this section on applications, is there anything you can say, particularly to graduates this year who've gone through this last year of there hasn't been work experience available, maybe their study has been affected, maybe they're demotivated by everything that's been going on? Are you making different allowances in your application process for that? How are you attempting to make sure that graduates still have the opportunities despite everything that's affected them?
Totally. Please be reassured that we are not expecting wide and vast work experience, particularly over the last 12 to 18 months. We really look at how you have taken the experience that you've got and really identify those transferable skills. So like I mentioned, you may be in a society that just operated virtually over lockdown. It may be that you are in a sports team. It's really looking at, we do understand you haven't got a lot of work experience, particularly in the last 18 months. Obviously, prior to that, please expand and talk about it. But it's how well does that candidate really think about all the extracurricular experiences that they've had in their personal life or within their university and education life, and just really identify those transferable skills that they've been able to demonstrate. And that takes a little bit of thought, a little bit of self-reflection, but they're the candidates that really do succeed.
Brilliant, and hopefully that's quite reassuring as well to listeners. Just quickly then, if we could talk about a couple of areas that we know from our own surveys are very important to graduates. First of those is the amount of support and training that they'll get in a new role. What is available at Enterprise in that regard?
Yeah, it's all about development at Enterprise. I mean, that's you join to really reach your potential on our programme. And really, I would say that support starts during the process, during the application process. One new initiative that we've introduced over the last, I would say, 3 to 4 months has been drop-in sessions for candidates. So this has been really a new initiative that we've never done before, and we really decided to take advantage of the virtual world we're living in. So any candidate at any part of the process can attend a drop-in session, and that drop-in session will allow you to learn a little bit more about Enterprise, but also we do share really good hints and tips on how to really do well at each step of the interview process. But also, in addition to that, we bring in branch managers, area managers who have started on the programme to talk about their experiences. Typically, those representatives from Enterprise may be part of like the diversity committee within their region, so they talk a lot also about some of the extracurricular support you can have and projects you can get involved in. And I think those sessions have been really outstanding in terms of the attendance. So I think, you know, even before they start, they feel they're meeting employees in the business, they're understanding a little bit more about our culture, and it's very relaxed. So I feel that, you know, you can certainly ask questions that you might not ask in an interview, and we get lots of questions from candidates. So I think the support really starts really at that point, to help the candidate. Once you are offered a position, you'll be assigned certainly a buddy at the branch that you work at, so you've got somebody that you will shadow you and support you certainly within the first few months of joining the company, just so you can, you know, always ask them questions and they'll always be there to support you. You typically start in a peer group, in a training group. That the size of that group can range, but typically on average it might be sort of 10 to 12 new hires that might start at the same time. And I think that peer-to-peer support is really important too. So you do start on an online training program where you have a combination of the online training and going into the branch to sort of demonstrate the skills that you've learned. So I think that's really nice that you really have that support from each other and also from the trainer, as the training program you're on is designed to last around about 10 months, and you really get a real structured roadmap that supports you in your learning. I would say other types, so when you go into the branch, you certainly will have daily coaching and regular feedback from the team. We're all about, obviously, once we've set kind of clear expectations of the role, we're all about that kind of constructive feedback that makes you better and helps you develop. So certainly that is regular and often in the branch by the assistant, typically, or branch manager. You'll also be in a one-to-one with your branch manager every month. And that one-to-one typically starts with a, you know, how are you kind of conversation, just to check in, and just gives you an opportunity to get that one-to-one time with your branch manager. But then we'll go through kind of how you're progressing and your performance. And again, it's a great opportunity to have that coaching and development one-to-one that you might not get, you know, in a typical day when it's busy in the branch. In addition to that, as I've mentioned before, there's lots of diversity committees or charity committees that you can be part of. Working in the community is really important to us, and there's lots of opportunities where, you know, we can get you involved in anything that you might be interested in, whether it's around charity work or part of the race equality team or the gender equality team or the LGBTQ plus team. There's lots of other support networks that we have within the company. And I think just to remember that because we have that promote from within culture, everyone's been in your shoes. Everybody has had the experience that you've had and have made the mistakes that you've made, and it's okay to make mistakes because you learn from them. So I think that's just really nice to kind of feel that we've all been there. And I think naturally the support is maybe a little bit different because it's much more relatable when you're communicating with your team and your management team. So yeah, that just kind of maybe gives you just some examples of the training support that you get.
Fantastic. So it sounds really comprehensive. And you've mentioned within that various committees and teams around diversity and inclusivity. Mm-hmm. And is there anything more that you could add to that in terms of right through from the application process through to, you know, being in the role, about how Enterprise really promotes that culture of diversity.
Yeah, really important. We want to have our branches at Enterprise are in the local towns, not just cities and airports, but there we have a really wide and far branch network across the UK and Ireland. And it's really important that our workforce mirrors the communities that we operate in. We can bring diversity of thought into the organisation. We just have that competitive edge if we have a really diverse workforce that mirrors those communities. And that is so critical to us. And we, certainly from a marketing perspective, we do share lots of different sort of projects, initiatives that we work on to really attract students from many different backgrounds to our opportunities. But once you're in the process, I would say, for example, our recruiters will share stories, we have a diversity magazine drive we might share with candidates, just so they get a feel for maybe some of the stories of our employees. Again, the website, I think I'm referring back to it again, but our careers website is just outstanding with sharing all the work we do around diversity. Even just this last week, we've done a lot of work. It's Pride Month in June, and we've done a lot with different universities and working and partnering with different organisations just to kind of get into those different spaces. So yeah, I think you can't put your finger on culture necessarily. It's really hard to kind of say how do you build a culture within a company.
Sure.
But I think it's that top down. It's important to our leadership team, and it's really that top down commitment and importance. And we have, as I said, a real wide network of diversity groups, and they all interconnect and work together. And it's just really it's just like there's always like lunch and learn sessions that you can join. There's lots of different sort of support that we have throughout the year. We have great allyship within the groups, and everyone gets together and really supports the cause. So it's really really nice culture to be part of.
Brilliant. And just finally then, there was a phrase you used earlier, and it comes to this issue of or the topic of career progression, and that was promote from within.
Mm-hmm.
Could you just tell us a bit about what that actually means in practice that differentiates it from other employers maybe, and how important that is to Enterprise and what it means for people in these new graduate roles?
Yeah, absolutely. It's really unique, and I think most grads might start a company and think, wow, I'll be maybe there for a year or two. I'll kind of see how I go, and maybe we'll kind of refresh and see what else is out there. And I understand it. That's just kind of human nature. You just don't know, and you're not necessarily onboarded fully into the company until maybe you've been there a little while. But after you've completed your training, so I've talked about the training program. You then progress to the next stage, which would be an assistant and branch manager, where we have a very defined linear path all the way through to being a regional director. And if we're looking for a branch manager, we won't look externally. We look at our own employees, our own workforce, and the best performer will get the position, irrespective of whether you've been here 2 years, 5 years. It is around performance, and if you perform well, you'll get that next opportunity. But what I would say is that when you get to that branch manager level within the organisation, and behind all of that, by the way, there's robust training and development opportunities after the management training programme. So we have leadership development programmes, management programmes. So there's a lot of development you'll get and ongoing past branch manager. But once you get to that branch manager position, you can diversify your career at Enterprise, and you can branch off into other parts of the business like HR, commercial sales, vehicle acquisitions, where you can be part of a team that buys our vehicles. We've got a remarketing team that sells our vehicles. So we've really got lots of opportunities in the organisation where you can move around and really potentially maybe take a side step to move forward. As opposed to maybe staying just in operations. Now, what I would say is majority of our opportunities are in operations, because that's our network, that's our company, it's Enterprise, and that's where most of our workforce are. But if you did want to, you can take on other positions. So I think that's it's really good because, you can really kind of create your own destiny at Enterprise. Everyone's career path is a little bit different. Everyone likes to talk about their journey, and it really allows you to reach your full potential. For me, I graduated in HR. I didn't necessarily want to work in HR. I wanted to join a program that was very diverse, very general management, and it allowed me to really explore different parts of a business and get a feel for where my skill set lies. And then actually I ended up going back into going into training development and HR. But then I did then go back into operations. So my career path has been here, there and everywhere. But that's the beauty of the company, is you can move around and explore opportunities, and you get lots of support along the way. So I just think it's really unique. And when I thought I might be at Enterprise for a couple of years, I'm now nearly 19 years in the company, and I'm still here. And you'll kind of see that from most of our senior leadership team. We just don't ever leave, because it's like, it's like moving around to different companies, but you're in the same business, because it's such there's lots of opportunities that are available to you.
Yeah, and great, like you say, to have both the chance to take that linear path, but also, if that's not for you, you can, as you said, make side steps to move forward. So both those options are available to you.
Absolutely.
Brilliant. Well, Claire, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks very much again to Claire for that, in particular for the insights on applications. Don't forget to search and apply for graduate jobs with top employers like Enterprise. Head to prospects.ac.uk, where you can also find plenty more advice on job applications and much more. You can follow and listen to Future You on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whichever app you choose to listen to podcasts on, or find us at prospects.ac.uk/podcasts, where you can also find transcripts of the episodes. Do share the podcast with anyone you know who might find it helpful, and you can also get in touch with comments, feedback, or suggestions. Just email podcast@prospects.ac.uk. That's it for this episode. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you soon.